Hello fellow musicians, this is VXT and welcome back to another video. Hope you're having an amazing day making some fire music. Now today we're going to talk about how to add stereo width using panning to bring your tracks to life. I'm going to show you these 4 common tricks which are used by industry pros, and you might have actually already heard most of these without even noticing them. You can almost apply it to any genre of music. It's not limited to electronic music. You can apply it to live music, classical, you can apply it to hip hop, but I'm going to show you a couple examples on each of the techniques that I like to use, and hopefully these would be helpful to you. So let's get started. Now the most common technique that most producers probably already are aware of is that you can pan MIDI notes. So for example, here I was working on a house/trance track, and the main element of this song during the build-up is the piano section. And the piano section right now is just control all velocities exactly the same. The panning for all the notes are exactly in the center, and this is what it sounds like without any effects applied. So as you see, it sounds very static, it doesn't have much motion, it doesn't have much stereo information except for the reverb. So the first thing that you could do is just manually start panning some of these notes in the control pan section. Now to humanize the panning or the volume velocities of individual notes, you can randomize this, and FL Studio lets you do that using the built-in riff machine. You could go to the levels tab and start messing around with different knobs to randomize the pan and the velocity for each of these notes. Something like this. And all of a sudden, now your piano sounds so much better because of the stereo information in it. Now I can do the same for the lead. You're basically panning your low notes to the left and your high notes to the right and keeping your center notes exactly in the center. So let's see how it sounds with the stereo effects applied now.
Here we are, nick of time. Is it you? Are we true? Hear you say a long time. Let me pray. You are mine. Here we are, nick of time. Is it you?
However, be sure not to overuse this, and also you cannot use this technique for loops or hi-hats or patterns that you found that might be in your song but you don't have access to the MIDI notes of those. So you can create this easily for audio files using some panning automation. Now this top loop that I'm using is something that I found from a Vengeance kit. I want it to be a little more stereo. Now you can do this in FL Studio by clicking on the top left of any audio clip and select Automate Panning. Now I want to automate this using a sine wave LFO. And you can easily create this in the automation by right-clicking at the endpoint and selecting Wave. And let's see how it sounds with and without the panning automation now. And this is with. Now you could do this on any digital audio workstation. However, in FL Studio, it's even easier using a plugin called Fruity Panomatic. So I have this other loop here, and I'm gonna start by adding the plugin Fruity Panomatic on it. You're gonna use the LFO section, and then you can control the amount and the speed, and you can also even automate these parameters if you want the panning LFO to speed up or slow down. Now, Fruity Pan-O-Matic also gives the option on using different types of curves for the LFO. And let's hear how it sounds in the mix now. But before using this, please make sure that the panning law that you're using is circular or some kind of a sine-cosine curve. If you add this effect with no panning laws or a triangular panning law, you're affecting the gains as well, which you don't want to do, especially when you render your mix in mono. Now, there could be certain elements. For example, in the song that we just heard, there is a hypersaw that comes in during the second part of the build-up, which I do want to pan and put a Pan-O-Matic on it. However, if I do that, it pans the entire signal and causes the energy shift, and the effect is way too audible for my liking. So what you could do is split your signal into multiple bands and only apply the Pan-O-Matic filter on the high end of the signal. Let me show you how to do that using a simple patcher preset. So what I'm gonna do is add a couple of Fruity parametric EQs, and then the first EQ is just gonna be a high pass filter, whereas the second one would be a low pass. So now I'm just gonna add a Fruity Pan-O-Matic in the signal chain that only applies to the high end of the signal. Now for the preset, and to make the effect a little more subtle, I want to have a control knob that can control the cutoff frequency for both the low end and the high end. And now this is what it sounds like with all these techniques applied in the final mixdown.
Here we are, nick of time. Is it you? Are we true? Hear you say a long time. Let me pray. You are mine.
Now using some or all of these techniques, you can definitely come up with some creative and interesting soundscapes and stereo width for your mixdowns. Also, using any of these techniques, you're guaranteed to have no phase issues, but just make sure you're using the circular panning law, so we're compensating for the loss of gain when we pan things left or right. And to reiterate once again, you can use all of these techniques on almost any genre of music that you're mixing. It doesn't have to be electronic music. So let me show you how it sounds on a hip-hop track. Right now, I do have a drum sample that I grabbed from Cymatics Kids, and it's all in mono and in the center. So what I've done now is I added the Pan Simple Highs Patcher preset that we just created on the drum bus, and this is the difference that it makes to make the sound come alive. So as you hear, the drums here were completely mono and exactly in the center, without any stereo information. Once we apply the patcher preset and turn the mix knob all the way up, this is what we get. You see how much difference it makes? Now, if you're interested in getting the patcher preset that we created in this video, please don't forget to check the description for our Discord, where we share not only this preset but a ton of other music stuff that would be helpful for you in your music making journey. And yes, if you find any of this stuff helpful, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for similar content in the future. I would really appreciate that. Thank you for watching.